1 billion, 20,000, 5 million, 30,000. Confused? This is how I sound when I am thinking or daydreaming. I talk to myself out loudly, and this confuses the hell out of my girlfriend and others around me. I've done this since I can remember, but yesterday, when I was talking to myself out loudly in the shower, it felt completely different. Then my girlfriend asked me what I was saying, and I was saying, hey, I'm just talking to myself. This was the first time that I didn't feel any shame or embarrassment of me just talking out loud. Now, my girlfriend was telling me this for years that it's completely okay to talk out loud when I'm thinking or daydreaming. I don't need to say sorry to her for interrupting her, for interrupting her and her asking me what I was saying, just to tell her, hey, I was just daydreaming. I'm just talking to myself, and that's it. The underlying thing that has always been present for me was the embarrassment and shame that my parents gave me when I was talking to myself. Now, one of the reasons why I'm talking to myself is because the way I process things. When I'm thinking and I am deep in thought or just daydreaming, the way my brain processes it, it's not only internally but also externally. In this case, I will be talking out loud. But of course, that confuses a bunch of people, especially if I'm just walking on a walk and I'm just talking to myself. Now, nowadays, it's probably a little bit easier to explain it because people don't know whether I have earphones on and I'm just talking to somebody on my earphones. But again, I was always ashamed and embarrassed and felt guilty that I was confusing people because my parents made me like that. One of the reasons why we do this to ourselves or why I did this is because of the abuse and trauma that I had as a child from my parents. The same ones that were shaming me and guilt tripping me that why was I talking to myself? That's not normal. In an abusive and traumatic childhood and a traumatic place, of course, nothing is normal. And because of that, I was hiding it. I was always mumbling like you couldn't hear me what I was saying. Because if I trained myself like this, whenever I actually said something out loudly, like 1 million, it was, I said it in a mumbly way so that when my parents asked me, Blash, what were you saying? I tended to say, I was just repeating something, memorizing something for school, or I was just reading something or saw it on TV or something like that, so that I would be able to explain it to them that there was a rational thing. Because, of course, if was talking to myself or my parents, that meant that I was probably going crazy. I had some mental health issues and all of that, right? Because that's what they saw on TV. If somebody is mumbling to themselves, they're not of sound mind and stuff like that. And at that time, I also had to always apologize because I was disturbing my parents. They had to ask me with this. I was disturbing their really important work, as in watching TV, feeling sorry for themselves, or smoking. Pretty much the three things that they were doing 90% of the time when they weren't at work. And the problem or the challenge that I had with this is I couldn't have been myself. And when I moved, it still kept, this was still with me. So the shame, embarrassment, and guilt, because I was projecting the fear that I had from talking to myself just normally in the house right now, that was bad, that was shameful, and I didn't want to disturb my girlfriend. We've been living together for 4.5 years now. 5. And it took me this long until yesterday to actually realize that, hey, it's okay. I can talk to myself. I can be whoever I am. I don't give a shit about what anybody says. And I'm not ashamed of it or I don't need to feel guilty. This is just a completely normal reaction to my thoughts and the way I process it because I'm a neurodivergent. I think completely differently. And the way my brain works more easily is if I walk around and talk to myself. Now, go in to a mall or somewhere else where people don't understand this and look, and if you were looking at me just walking and then talking to myself and maybe sometimes even like walking around in circles, well, yeah, you would probably think I was crazy or something like that, but that's not the case. I This is the way I process things. This is the way I think about things, and I allow my brain to be with itself, where it had to be the majority of my childhood because my environment wasn't safe. I didn't feel safe expressing myself the way I should have, and the way my parents should have allowed me to. But I had to be inside my amazing mind. But in that case, it always had some guardrails, kind of like it was almost like a prison that I had to be really careful about what I'm going to be saying, how I'm going to be saying it. Otherwise, my parents may think that I'm crazy. Blaj needs a mental health check and all of that, which I did have, but that is another story. Now, if you're feeling shame, guilt, or just embarrassed by talking to yourself or having some other quirks, I'd love to hear about them actually. If you're still listening up to this point, just put them in the comments, and I'll reply to them for sure. But any quirks that you have, they're okay for you. They may not feel okay or normal for others, but you don't give a shit about others because it's completely fine. You are a completely okay person. And if you've been traumatized like I have, we do build defensive mechanisms and coping mechanisms for things that our parents can provide us. For me, that was definitely being in my mind, imagining a better life, a better place, or just thinking about stuff that I found it fascinating, where history, geography, physics, astronomy, space, and all of the other subjects that I just enjoyed. And yes, I was talking to myself, and that is completely okay.